fancy logos athletes wear really convince you to buy their products? JP says yes. He's a partner at the law firm of Nelson, Mullins, Riley & Scarborough, LLP, and a chair of the sports business law practice. Jay, welcome to the Language of Business.
Thanks for having me, Greg.
So how did you come to specialize in sports business law?
Quite by accident. I was a corporate lawyer by training, and it came to be that one day a famous hockey player came in our office. He had a problem with a restaurant deal that had gone south. His name was Cam Neely. He was a superstar with the Boston Bruins at the time. I helped him out of that mess. And then
Few people might know him around these parts.
Yes, right? Currently the president of the Boston Bruins.
Of course.
And then he said, why don't you go down there and negotiate my contract with Harry Sinden? So quite by accident, that's how I got started.
And besides Cam Neely, who are some of your other well-known clients?
Well, over the years, I've represented over 250 NHL players and some baseball players. But Grant Fuhr was a Hall of Fame goalie, 5 Stanley Cups, and local players around here like Mike Greer, for example, who actually lives here in your locale. And so it's been an enjoyable way to practice law in the sports world.
What's the breakdown between sponsorship versus transactional work, et cetera?
Presently at Nelson Mullins, I chair the sports industry practice group, and a lot of my day is transactional-based law, and that's involving the representation of corporations, colleges and universities. It could be individual celebrities or athletes that have been approached by companies to be part of their marketing plans. So a vast majority of my time is spent on that type of thing. I also represent a major corporation that does a lot of sports marketing in a global sense, so we're active with big properties such as the NFL and the PGA Tour.
When it comes to sponsorship, how is a company able to calculate its return on investment?
It's a good question. For years, it was throw a sign on a wall, hope people saw it, hope people bought your product. Now with technology, the metrics of measurement are tremendous. For example, they can run a sweepstakes, they can have surveys, all those metrics are counted. In addition, if there's a call to action by a celebrity endorser, they'll immediately cover and determine how many click-throughs to the company's website or product-specific targets were made by that potential customer for the product that the endorser is pushing. So the metrics have gotten tremendously more sophisticated, and they spend their dollars much more wisely.
Is there a rule of thumb for what an acceptable return on investment is for one of those metrics?
Well, in terms of revenue per dollar spent, typically large corporations are probably looking for a 3-to-1 ratio. $3 to $4 for every $1 of media spent. And you're spending media in a host of different ways.
And when you say $3 to $4, this is $3 to $4 of purchasing products associated with their name, or click-throughs, or some other
Well, just
metric?
In terms of if there's a tie that they can make between, for example, if a company is pushing a particular line of headphones through the National Football League, then they know how much money they're spending on those headphone marketing and marketing plans, and they can determine how much gross revenue was derived from those campaigns.
So if they're investing $1 million in terms of their advertising, they're hoping to generate $3 to $4 million of sales from that exposure?
At least, yes.
How about stadium naming rights?
Stadium naming rights are fascinating. They are far beyond putting your name up on the top of a large building. The stadium naming rights deal is the most most complicated and complex deal, because you're acquiring everything from the name of that bank or insurance company on the turnstile that you walk in the building, in club suites, on tickets. Also exclusivity. For example, if it's a banking institution, exclusive ATMs. They'll have nowhere else to go. Or if they're a favored credit card processor for a MasterCard or Visa, one of those cards is going to take priority. Those deals are extremely complex, but they're very valuable and quite costly. There's one interesting point that still amazes me. Farmers Field. Have you heard of it?
Absolutely.
Okay. Farmers Field is a field yet to be built, and it's in Los Angeles, theoretically. And it also has no football team within which to play, so which plays there. But yet, Farmers Insurance is on the hook for 30 years, $20 million a year. And if and when that stadium comes to pass, they will have the naming rights. So that gives you a sense about the demand that good naming rights are in great big markets like LA, Boston, Chicago.
Is the analysis for the return on investment similar to sponsorship?
Probably a little harder to quantify in terms of just consumer products versus, because you're getting so many different media impressions, and you're also getting the ability to drive hospitality and B2B returns. So there's other ways of measuring, your entertainment at those types of facilities. But they are well regarded properties to get your hands on, and as a result, the owners of those properties are able to go much longer terms. MetLife Stadium, for example, I believe is a 17 or 20-year deal at $17 million a year.
What trends are you seeing in your industry practice?
Technology is a good example of something that I see all the time, and I think to some degree law is trying to catch up with technology. The companies want social media because it's a good, efficient way to get to consumers. A lot of times they're looking at how many followers they have on social media, Twitter, Facebook impressions, etc. The companies want to monitor the actions, the statements, etc. of their celebrities. So, you could have an unrelated tweet go out from a particular celebrity that may be relatively damaging to the brand. And that's another really important thing that I see all the time, is when we go into these large sponsorships, whether it be with teams, leagues, or individuals, companies are concerned about protecting their brand. They say, Jay, if something goes wrong, we need to distance ourselves and do it promptly and efficiently and answer the questions later. So the brand is the single most important thing that they're after by way of protections.
Even on your personal Hotmail or Gmail account?
I would not write anything on a personal account that I didn't want to see in the press. This is the day and age we live in. And I learned a long time ago there are really no such thing as off the record sometimes when you're dealing with reporters. And particularly now in today's day and age of how media, particularly in the sports, the overheated world of sports and entertainment, everybody's looking for an angle. And so less and less do I engage in off-the-record conversations.
Thanks, Jay.
Thanks for having me, Greg.
Jay Fee, a partner at the law firm of Nelson, Mullins, Riley & Scarborough, LLP, and a chair of the business industry sports law practice.
Can sports truly impact business as well as athletes? Next on The Language of Business.